Donkey Kong is in the Mario universe, a universe full of lots of characters from main series Mario games, Mario spin-offs, Yoshi games, and also Wario games. With all these games under one umbrella, there are bound to be plenty of forgotten characters. You may think Donkey Kong as a franchise doesn't have many characters, therefore there aren't too many characters to forget, but there are actually a lot of Donkey Kong characters. The research that went into this video was extremely extensive, and a lot harder than I initially anticipated. There are actually so many obscure characters that escape the minds of fans that I had to set up some rules. Random enemies and one-time bosses that aren't final bosses aren't allowed because those would just be the easiest to fill up the entire countdown with. This meant I had to try even harder when picking characters. Alright, let's get this done before I forget all these characters and their placements. If you're expecting Donkey Kong Jr. to appear in this countdown, then prepare to be disappointed. Donkey Kong Jr. may not be relevant in 2019, but there are still plenty of DK fans that remember his existence. Yeah, I actually worked hard to make this. The character I'm going to talk about might make you think of Donkey Kong Jr., but in reality, Baby Donkey Kong is a different character. It's supposed to be the modern Donkey Kong as a baby. You might be thinking, that character exists? But you may also be asking why Baby Donkey Kong is on here when Donkey Kong is the most recognizable DK character. Well, think of it like Baby Daisy or Baby Rosalina in Mario Kart 8. Daisy and Rosalina are canonical Mario characters, but their baby forms aren't considered the same since they are just spin-off characters. So that means I can talk about this baby ape. He may be known enough for there to be merchandise of him, but Baby Donkey Kong hasn't ever been a common character. He's only ever been in 2 games, the first being Yoshi's Island DS along with other babies, where he had the ability to swing on vines and smash into enemies and walls. His only other appearance was in Mario's Super Sluggers, a spin-off baseball game. Here he had to be unlocked and is only really good on the field. It's strange that he drifted out of relevance, especially since he could have easily been a character in Mario Kart 8, though maybe it's for the best he became forgotten. Mario Kart 8 had a bit of a baby problem. Like I said before, Donkey Kong Jr. is a classic Donkey Kong character that is remembered by some fans. Some characters from back then aren't so lucky. Before Rare rebooted Donkey Kong, the series had a focus of Donkey Kong being an antagonistic ape who would get into fights with humans like Jumpman. One that's far less recognizable though is Stanley the Bug Man. Sure, there are still some fans who remember this arcade protagonist, but aside from some references in other games, he's only ever been a character you play as in old Donkey Kong games like Donkey Kong 3. You control him to fight DK and his army of bugs, and you protect your greenhouse with your trusty bug sprayer. He appeared in other versions of Donkey Kong 3 and was also in the Donkey Kong cartoon, not to be confused with the Donkey Kong Country cartoon. Despite all this though, Stanley is just another forgotten arcade character who might never get a big role in another game. Imagine what it would be like to have this character revived though. Since I allowed myself to include final bosses in this countdown for usually being big in the story of the game, that means I can talk about some really odd villains. You've got villains like King K. Rool, Tiki Tong, and Lord Frederick, but there are more. One of these being the main villain of a racing game spin-off that doesn't even have Donkey Kong. Yeah, so Diddy Kong Racing had a story campaign that starred Wizpig as the main villain, whose goal was to take over Timber Island. He also turned a rooster into a frog, hypnotized the island's 4 guardians, and turned his planet into an amusement park. He also apparently loves racing, hence why instead of fighting the protagonists, he just races them. And speaking of his race, it's hard! One fuck up and you aren't coming back. And you have to beat him not once, but twice. I guess you can argue that he's not much of a forgotten character, since he was a big character in the game for being the main antagonist, final boss, and even an unlockable racer in the DS version. But he was only ever the villain in an old forgotten racing game that felt like Diddy Kong was only thrown on there to be the mascot just to get more people to pick it up. Also, aside from playing as the main antagonist, why would anyone return to the DS remake to play as him when his stats are only good in terms of top speed? It would have been worth it if he was as overpowered as his boss fight. You thought I was done talking about Diddy Kong Racing, but there's still someone from this cast I feel is deserving of being called forgettable. So the N64 and DS versions both had unlockable characters, and Drumstick the Rooster was one in both of them. Remember when I said Wizpig turned a rooster into a frog? I was talking about Drumstick. For the other unlockable characters, there was TT, who was actually worth unlocking because of his stats, and the DS exclusives were Taj the Genie and Wizpig, who were big in the story mode. Drumstick just seems extremely random in comparison to the others. And for his stats, he had low acceleration and handling, but good top speed in the N64 version, and good top speed and acceleration, but with bad handling in the DS version. Now, how do you unlock him? TT's unlocked after beating him on all time trial tracks, Taj is unlocked after beating Adventure Mode 1, and Wizpig is unlocked after beating Adventure Mode 2. But Drumstick is unlocked after getting all 4 Grand Prix trophies, then going into the Adventure Mode map, and finally, running over a frog. What? Why make that so complex for this obscure character who to this day has never been outside of Diddy Kong Racing? Guess what? Wizpig is not the full extent of forgotten Donkey Kong antagonists. There's another. Someone who just came out of nowhere and the developers just decided to make him the main antagonist. This is Ghastly King from Donkey Kong Jungle Beat. This guy seems to serve no purpose to the plot of the game, if there was any, and only appears in Jungle Beat. The only thing he has going for him is the fact that you fight him twice. Oh, no wait, you fight Cactus King first. What's the difference? I don't know. Cactus King is just another name for Ghastly King. But what's the point of giving him this other alias? Both fights are the exact same. In fact, all of this game's bosses are forgettable and obscure, but this one is just a bit more strange because of the difference in names and for being what seems like a last minute idea for a final boss and main villain. If we're back to Jungle Beat after that forgettable villain, you know there's something wrong with this next character. Everyone loves animal buddies, right? They have special abilities and are used often in levels where their aid can be greatly used. Not all of them are memorable though, and the undisputed most forgettable one is Floral the Squirrel. So Floral is a flying squirrel that's used in several Jungle Beat levels as a parachute. Yep, just a parachute in this one game and never seen or referenced ever again. That's probably a good thing though, since we do have animal buddies like Squawks and Espresso who can do Floral's job plus more. Plus, it seems pretty easy for one to mistake him for just being a regular parachute instead of a flying squirrel acting as one. Well, he only is a total player after all. There have been lots of big blue Kremlings, which is strange because they could have just stuck with one design and reused him in multiple games like other Kremlings. For some reason, Rare couldn't get enough of these big blue Kremlings, and Nintendo decided that instead of choosing one that already exists, they should make another brand new one. If they decide to reuse Clump and Copter in Donkey Kong Barrel Blast, why couldn't they just reuse Crusha or Crumple? Why did they make Kludge? He was made to be Funky Kong's rival, but one of the other existing Kremlings could have been that rival instead. And that's it. He never appeared in any other game aside from a reference in Super Smash Bros. Brawl. Oh, and not only do you have to unlock him, but he's only got maxed out top speed and the poorest boost in agility. So yeah, who cares about Kludge? This one's a bit of a weird one, but it is still a character seen multiple times in Donkey Kong 64 and has a somewhat significant role. So to keep you from going into levels without a sufficient amount of golden bananas, B Locker stands in your way. It's just a signpost that works with King K. Rool and doesn't want to end up in the big sawmill in the sky for disobedience. Basically, he's just a wall that affects progression, given a name and sort of personality. Not only is that lame, it's also extremely forgettable. Maybe he did end up in the big sawmill in the sky after all. There are some characters that never really get attention because they are only seen by those who wish to 100% a game. or 101%, or 102%, or in this case, 105% the game. Yeah, so to be the completionist in Donkey Kong Country 3 Dixie's Double Trouble, you're tasked with finding banana birds through games of memory in caves, and you have to return all 15, or 20 in the GBA version, to the Queen Banana Bird. Yes, a character hidden by the player by Baron K. Rulenstein that needs her children to restore her powers, so
vengeance can be hers.
Now, let's compare her with someone like Clubba. Clubba is always visible on each world map and sends you to new levels to play so you can get closer to completion. The Queen Banana Bird isn't easily seen and only rewards you with a crappy cutscene. And let me remind you, this is only if you wish to pursue a 105% completion. That's not something everyone's going to want to do. Also, whatever happened to these banana birds? I'm guessing they all just flew south and never returned. Or maybe they went extinct? I don't know, I'm trying to come up with a cool reason why they've never been seen since DKC 3. So we've seen quite the forgettable characters, but I had to save this one obscure character that's not only in one game, but that game itself is a forgotten Donkey Kong game. Seriously, who remembers DK Jungle Climber? Does this game even have a fan base? How about Zanan? You know, the alien banana who crash landed on Sun Island, had his crystal bananas robbed of him by King K. Rool, and joins forces with the DK crew to get them back? Oh wait, you probably didn't know. What the fuck is this character? Someone was high when playing the concept for this game. Yes, let's make banana aliens from a banana planet and have one that only shows up in cutscenes named Zananab. Get it? Because it's banana X spelled backwards? And that's all that's significant about this character that looks like he's straight out of a children's cartoon. Sure, he kind of serves a significant role in the story by showing up in cutscenes, but that's it. Plus, it's for the story of DK Jungle Climber, which is a fancy way of saying no one fucking cares. And where else can you see him? As a sticker and trophy in Super Smash Bros. Brawl? Wow, that totally means he's still relevant in Donkey Kong lore and in the minds of Nintendo and their fans. What a fucking stupid character.